It's easy to get disillusioned with ordinary life, but what if there's more to it than meets the eye?
Everyday ordinary life is where extraordinary faith is built. It's where we actually get to walk with Jesus.
This podcast is all about looking at all of life, the highs, the lows, and plateaus, through the lens of a journey with Jesus.
Whoever you are, wherever you're at, God sees you and wants to walk with you.
Only when you choose to do life with Him does the ordinary become wonderful. Hello, welcome back to Wonderfully Ordinary. I'm one of your hosts, Sammy.
And I'm Stesha, the other host.
And we're so excited to be here today for another episode. What are we talking about today?
Today is going to be a really fun episode because I think this is girls' favorite topic to talk about, and that is having a crush, okay? Boys, listen up because you're going to get in the heads of a girl. But also, I think this could be helpful for really anyone, girl or boy.
Yeah, it's a part of ordinary life too. So we figured let's touch on it, right?
Oh, for sure. The most ordinary thing about our lives is the fact that we have crushes, we have interests in people. Some of those leads to dating, some of them, most of them, practically all of them don't. So before
I'm so pessimistic, but honestly, it's true. We'll get into it in a second, but we're going to start with
Hi-Lo Buffalo.
Oh, yeah. Stash, you want to start us off?
Yes. So we're going to do a speed round of Hi-Lo Buffalo, kind of like speed dating, but without the dating. So, hi, I got to go to the beach with my cousin and tan.
Ooh.
Low, and got sunburned. My bad for not wearing SPF. Wear your SPF. Buffalo, last night I got woken up at 4 a.m. because my cat decided to bring me a gift.
Oh?
It was a cockroach.
Ew, stop. And then what do you mean? Did it have it in his mouth when?
She brought it up and I woke up because she was scratching, trying to get it because it went under something in my room. And so when she does that, it's like I have a sixth sense. I woke up and I saw its little whiskers, the cockroaches, and I was like, oh, Keisha. So yeah, I killed it.
Ew.
But I'm not scared to kill them anymore because she does that a lot. She thinks I want them.
No,
Anyways, enough of
gross.
cockroach talk. Sammy, speed round. Let's go. Hi-Lo Buffalo.
Girl, you gave me a little coughing attack.
I'm so sorry.
I hate roaches. Okay, sorry. Okay, my high. I had a lot of fun things this week, but I'll say I also got to go to the beach with my family for Mother's Day and then with my friend when she came to visit me. So that's my high, just seeing a lot of people I love this week.
Nice.
And then my low was I didn't get the best sleep in the world because I was out almost every night this week, getting home at 9 or 10. And normally I try to have a night or two to myself, but you know what? That's just not what happened. And it's okay because it was still fun. And then my buffalo is that 3 different people in my family gave birth this week.
3. That's a nice number.
So
3.
from my dad's side, my there's a lot of family. Both of my second cousins, one of them had twins and the other one had a boy. Mm-hmm. And then my cousin on my mom's side, who I'm a lot more closer with just because my mom's family's a little bit smaller. She's grew up more like a sister to me. She had her first daughter today.
Oh, I love the little baby girl.
I literally was tearing up seeing the photos, and I'm just so excited to be Dia Sammy.
Oh, that's so cute.
So that's my Hi-Lo Buffalo.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. So now into the juicy conversation.
Right in.
This podcast episode idea kind of came out of the fact that Sammy has been teaching us girls for the last couple months, honestly, about this really cool concept.
You're making it sound so
it's this information was sent from above.
It wasn't. It's not that. It's not that crazy, guys. It's silly, but it's
very silly,
fun.
But honestly, it's a great way to put a crush into perspective, and it's kind of breaking down a crush from just an overall overarching word of a crush and breaking down into different levels.
Yeah.
That way you can get out of your head, you can think about it more wisely and not idolize it and all of the above. So
here's the tool, or here's the categories. My friend also, I'm going to give her credit. She's one of my friends from an internship I did. And she's the one who introduced me this, which is why I've only been using it for less than a year. But here are the levels. Ready? First on the list is Heart Sparkle. So Heart Sparkle is the basic level of interest in a guy. Or if you're a guy and a girl, Mm-hmm. And so when you have a heart sparkle on someone, it might be that you've never even talked to them, but you've just like seen them and you're like, wow, they're kind of cute. They seem like a nice person. I want to talk to them. Maybe you have talked to them. Maybe you're even friends, but you haven't really seen them in a romantic way yet. But there's like certain things about them that interest you. So you just have a heart sparkle. It's like a baby interest, right?
Mhm.
Then from a heart sparkle, you don't just jump to a crush because that's a pretty big jump. You can, but normally you go to the next level, which is a crinkle.
Ooh, a
A
crinkle.
crinkle. So a crinkle is when you are like clearly interested in this person now. You like having conversation with them. You would say yes if they asked you out on a date, or if you're a guy, like you'd want to ask them out on a date. Or girls, if you want to ask a guy on a date, you could do that too. I personally don't have that courage yet, but you know, one day maybe.
I do not have that conviction, and I will not be doing that.
But basically, at the crinkle level, you would go out with them maybe once or twice, and you enjoy conversation with them and are friendly and want to get to know them even more, right?
Mhm.
Then the crush level is when they're literally the only person in your brain. So, in the sense of you're not necessarily looking at anyone else, they're the only one you're really interested in. You already know that you like want to keep going out. If you haven't gone out already, you
Right.
really want to.
So it's like
And
he's the one that you text your friends all about. Oh my goodness,
yes.
so and so
Yeah.
looked at me today.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And who knows? I feel like they could have a code name. Like I know a lot of girls do code names. I do code names.
Especially if
But
they're always around in your circles.
yeah, if
you
they're
know?
like around you. But also like the code names just start sometimes at Heart Sparkle if it's just like for fun. So anyways, those are the categories, and I just have started using them, especially because Heart Sparkles feel so like fun and easy to give
Mhm.
away. So let's say it's maybe someone that you just admire or respect and you maybe aren't interested, but you like have a little like a little sparkle of like admiration and respect for that person. You know, you could say like, "Oh, I have a heart sparkle for so and so."
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
like I wouldn't want to call it a crush because I feel like calling it a crush really is
it's
like
high stakes.
high stakes for sure. Can you have multiple heart sparkles?
I think you can because it's more so for me when I have a heart sparkle for someone, it's really like admiration and some sort of like appreciation for that person.
Is it always
So,
like, I mean,
like
like romantic?
Um, I think that sometimes I'll use it without it being romantic. It'll be kind of like, "Oh, like I really like love that friend." And
Okay.
you know, no, I'm not giving out heart sparkles here or there for like people in relationships, like just because I
Yeah.
think that's weird. But let's say I have like a guy friend who I really admire and respect. Like I'll be like, "Oh, heart sparkle goes to them." Like
Should say it's like the door's cracked open.
it's literally cracked. Yeah,
Just a crack. Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah, it's like a way to express your like appreciation and endearment for someone to your girlfriend. So the context for using this is for me and like my girlfriends to kind of talk and in a lighthearted way without getting swept up into like this whole other world in my head where like I'm dating a person that I haven't
Right.
even talked to ever.
Okay, so now that we have like these different levels of a crush, quote unquote, how does this kind of like help us stay I guess like view a crush from a godly perspective because some people might be like there's nothing wrong with a crush no matter how you think about it, no matter how you feel about it, no
Mhm.
matter how you daydream about it. It's all fine and cool and fun and games because it's all in your head. But is it really all cool? Like
Hmm.
would you say like there are dangers of having a crush?
I think there's dangers of like anything you could take too far in your head because I think our brain and our imagination can be a dangerous place just as much as it can be like a good place.
Mm.
So I want to flip the question to you first, though, before I share from my experience. Like,
Oh, she's pulling a
how?
Jesus move.
I'm pulling the Uno reverse card.
Snap.
Uno
What
reverse
can I Uno
card.
reverse? I'm just joking.
No, you don't have one. I have all of them.
Oh man.
Well, I just want to hear like because I mean, I still learned this recently too, but
Yeah.
since I like introduced you to
Right.
these like levels thing, like how is it not that this is like some answer to like all our problems, but how has it helped you reframe like your mindset and
Hmm.
how do you feel like crushing can be like good or
Right,
bad?
right, right. Um, honestly, before Well, let's just start with saying that I'm not a person who has like serious crushes very often. I
Mm.
feel like it takes a lot for me to admire someone enough to call it a crush, right?
Mhm.
For a while I wondered if there was something wrong with me. And it's like, am I just not capable of like liking people or
Mm.
loving people? But I think in reality this like tool, if you will, kind of helps you um and like lets you know like no, there's nothing wrong with you because not everyone needs to be at the level of a crush. Like you can have admiration, you can have a sparkle for someone, you can have a crinkle where it's a little more, and then the blown crush. And it's just kind of helped me like shift the perspective of being like, it's okay to have like interest in someone without being like, I'm obsessed with you, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of helped like separate all those feelings and help me understand my feelings a little bit
Yeah.
more. And it also helps me kind of just think through like can this potentially become something like that,
Yeah.
for looking at from like the good perspective. Then there's also like idolizing crushes, right? That is a scary place to be because in really any relationship, whether it's in your head or not, you should never have anything as an idol and
Yeah.
above God because that's what an idol is, right?
Yeah.
You don't want something that takes all your time and all your thoughts and energy. So just having like this tool kind of like break it down helps not make it feel as serious. Do you
Mhm.
know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes like I take myself too seriously. So this is also just a fun way of being like, okay, yeah, that guy's really cool and I'm interested in being friends with him. And
Yeah.
then, maybe you get to know them. You're like, actually, if he asked me out, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
But I don't have to call it a crush because that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I think too, I want everyone listening to understand that like this isn't coming from a place of thinking, oh, like I'm just always looking for a guy to be in my brain to like. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like
Right, right.
no. I think this is more so helping me because just from my personal experience, I feel like I was a little bit opposite to what you just described, where I was the type of girl, and honestly, only up until like recently, meaning like in the last few years, God really, like through college,
Mm-hmm.
God really was like showing me, girl, you got to get out of your head when it comes to like liking a boy, because I just think I grew up and became somewhere along the line the person who would like a guy in my head and let it like become such a serious crush in my head that I could not even become their friend.
Mm.
And even if it was someone I was kind of friends with, like I would suddenly not be myself around them because of these feelings of like having a crush so hard or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally was so annoying. And I thought it was like all fun and like girl things. And so hopefully there's girls out there who can relate. But honestly, after like the fun part like is over, it sucks because
Yeah.
really what the Lord was showing me is like you want a relationship, which isn't a bad thing,
Right.
right? Like one of my desires is to get married one day ultimately and have a partner to like follow Jesus with and have a family with. Have Am I surrendering that to the Lord? Yes. Is it hard to? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not to say that like my only goal in life is to like get married, but it's something I would want, right? We'll talk about that later. But I think that something God showed me was, okay, you have this desire, but you stay in your head because it's easier there. Like you get to control the
Oh,
person when you're
yeah.
daydreaming. And
Yeah.
I like love daydreaming. I grew up loving all of that because it's easy. Like you come up with your own stories and you control what the person says to you and whatever they
Did you like
like.
imagine like how he would ask you out, how your relationship
Yes,
is?
like
Then
all
now
that
you're
stuff.
married. Now you have your
Yeah.
first kid in their name, and like, and
I wouldn't go that far, but I would imagine.
that's good.
Sorry. I would imagine. I mean, sometimes I would imagine like getting married in my head, but like I would imagine just like how they would like talk to me or like what they would say to me, like
Yeah.
because I'm also a words of affirmation person. So everything that God has given me, I was like using to feel like I controlled this story
Right.
because it was easier and more fun to be in control,
Right.
right? And in your head, in your daydreams, like you write the story and it's so fun, but that's not what we were meant to do with our
No.
life. We're
And I
meant to live in reality, not in our heads.
and I think that you almost set it like a unrealistic expectation on that
Yes,
person that you were
extremely unrealistic.
daydreaming about because you have absolutely no input from them.
Yeah.
There's no personality from them. There's no differing opinions because you've written the story that best suits you.
Mhm.
And so I think if even if that person was to ask you out and you'd go for it, you would be very greatly disappointed to find out that they're not the person that you wrote in your head.
Yes. Oh, that's what's happened to me. Is like
Mm,
I've experienced more disappointment and like I'm not gonna say heartbreak, but like mini like heartbreaks, just like heart disappointments, you know, like
yeah. Heart
sadness.
squashes.
Heart squashes, yeah. Heart squashes because the people that I have allowed to like become a crush in my
Yeah.
head with like prematurely, I like created a version of them in my head that wasn't true to who they really are. And so when I got to know them more, I suddenly found out like nothing bad, but
Right.
just like, oh, they aren't how I imagined they would be. Oh, guess what? Because you were imagining it, coming up with it
Mm,
based off of whatever movie or ideal character that you've like suddenly over time come to love.
right.
And find attractive, and then you like put those traits onto a person in your daily life, and then they're like in your head this perfect person, and it's not real.
Yeah. Man,
Tisk.
it's so
This is
hard.
also hard for me to talk about because it feels so exposing, but like I know other girls out there do it. I know other girls out there do it.
Yeah,
and
we do.
I don't know about guys as much. I feel like
They do. Come on. It's the
some
human
of them
experience.
probably, right? I mean, I think everyone's different. Like you said it's harder for you to have a crush. For me, it was like easy. I definitely think that the terminology for it helps now. Before I knew that, I just started to like learn that it's okay to have interest in people.
Mm,
And that's like essentially what in my head like tried to steer away from like crushing on people and then turned it into more like I have interest in this person and admiration for this person, so I'm going to proceed as like being their friend.
right.
Whereas before I would get so in my head I couldn't even like pursue a friendship with them. And I really do think that was coming from a place of like in middle school and not elementary, in middle and high school, I just didn't know how to like have guy friends.
I
I'm
still
sorry, I'm laughing because like
I still think that's a conversation that like people still don't know how to have proper friendships. But I think it's
Yeah.
because like either A, you're jumping to conclusions too fast, that you're just assuming if a guy is my friend, he wants me, which maybe, but half the time I think we have to learn like you can be friends with people with the proper boundaries.
Yeah.
And not allow like maybe like you do want to get married. And so you're going to take every single small interest that someone gives you, whether it is platonic or not,
Yeah.
and turn it into a crush because you're like, well, that's what you do, right? Someone likes me, henceforth. I don't know. So, not saying everyone does this, but I've definitely have seen this with just people
Yeah.
like, I've been friends with over the years that they like escalated because, like, it's like that one girl in high school where she's like, oh my goodness, that guy, he looked at me and he said hello. He's my husband now.
Yeah.
Like,
Or like girls will joke and be like, I dropped so many hints. Like I made eye contact with them for more than 2 seconds.
eye contact is just human decency,
I mean, there is an element of like nonverbal communication that you could
Yes.
show interest in a guy,
Yes.
like, or vice versa. But I think it's just hilarious how sometimes we like read into things too much too.
Only because we've built that story in our heads,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
How can like Samuel, what do you think? Like, how can idolizing these relationships, even though they're not even relationships, like the story you've built in your head or that person or that crush, how can that be dangerous just like in general in your life?
Yeah, well, I think that for me, something that I had to come to terms with that I just touched on was that all of that living in my head, living in my daydreams, like all of that essentially was coming from a place of wanting to control things that I should never have control over because God
Mhm.
should have control over them. And I feel like you see that sometimes with different sorts of behaviors. Like sometimes eating disorders come from trying to reach for control over something,
Mhm.
right? Other addictions come from control or feeling a lack of control in a stressful time of your life. So then you
Right.
go to something that you can control that gives you relief. So even though it's not necessarily as dangerous maybe for your physical health as like an addiction or an eating
Right.
disorder, it's still so dangerous for your overall well-being, because whenever we choose to live in something that is comfortable and in our control because it's harder to live in reality or to live in surrender and obedience to God, that is dangerous, because we weren't made to be the ones in control of every detail of our lives. We weren't made to live in our heads. We were made to live in reality, to connect with people in a real way, just like we
Mhm.
talked about last week with needing community and needing friendships. Like, that's what God made us for. And He's the one who's ultimately in control. So, any attempts that we take to take His place,
Mhm.
like, we weren't built to be God. So, why are we
Right.
trying to be God? So,
Yeah. And
that's why I think it's the most dangerous. I think there's other side effects that maybe you
yeah,
have
I mean,
thoughts
in the
on.
past, like with like when I have had crushes and stuff, there's like that component where you can almost try to, like you said, like play God
Mhm.
and force things to happen. Maybe you like there's a difference of being open to someone and being like, hey, like I'm open to pursue a relationship. Like just there which we're not gonna really talk about like different phases of dating and
Mhm.
how to get a date and whatnot in this episode. But like being open is okay, but to the point where let's say you're I don't wanna say you're stalking this person, but maybe some people do, and you're like you're stalking, your whole world revolves around them. You're like, "Oh, they're gonna be there, so I'm gonna show up there. They're not there, I'm not gonna be there." If they don't respond to you the way that you want, you
Yeah.
get upset, your whole mood changes, you're no longer, yourself. You might be changing how you behave
Yeah.
to appease this person because you just want it so badly. You think
Yeah.
you should be with them, that it starts changing who you are as a person,
Yeah.
which can spiral quickly into lots of different things, whether it's all in your head or you start like presenting these like to
Yeah.
people. Um, and that's where I feel like the idolization starts taking the place of God, and you're no longer allowing God to influence your life and your
Yeah.
character, but you're letting this person and this idea of that person that you've created in your head to take
Yeah.
control of your life.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, I mean, it could happen with friendships too.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
for me in high school, I would also I forgot that I did this, but I just would also come up with scenarios in my head where I like had conversations with people I wanted to be friends with, but I wasn't close with them yet. And
Mm,
I would imagine like what a conversation would go like. And it's just fun to like imagine it. And then it's not like it would ever really happen.
mhm.
And eventually, again, as the Lord really stretched me out of my comfort zone and helped me to fear Him more than I feared other people, and put his opinion of me as like what's truth versus, anything else.
Yeah.
He worked on this in me and I became friends with those people naturally. But for a time there, like I just would imagine these conversations and scenarios playing out in my head and going so well, and me being funny and everyone liking me, whatever. And then that just was like honestly a waste of my mental space, because and I still struggle with daydreaming to this day because it's just so like easy. I don't know if it's just me,
No, it's
but I
definitely
feel
not just
like,
you.
yeah, it's just like fun because you're creating a story in your head. Is your using your imagination a bad thing? No. Like,
No,
it's such a
but when
gift.
you end up like living in your head more than you do
It's
in
an
reality,
escape then. Yeah.
it's like some people use alcohol to escape the reality, some people use drugs, some people use other people, and some people
Yeah.
use their dreams.
Yeah.
And that's just I mean, this is kind of talking about like an extreme version of
Yeah.
this because we all daydream to some extent, but allowing it to take control of your life is definitely not healthy whatsoever. And the Bible talks about taking every thought captive
Yes,
because not
yeah.
every thought is a holy thought. And you really do
Mhm.
need to decipher those because you can very easily and very quickly get into a place that does not glorify God.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that was just my experience, which is why through college God was really like working on that part of me. Um and even now with this silly little like levels of a crush thing, it's just helpful. It's like a helpful but fun way to still like categorize like any sort of interest I might have towards someone,
Mhm.
but not like get so in my head that I'm falling into that old habit that I
Right.
had, that very like dangerous habit of like not even being able to like be chill with a guy, like just be myself in front of them because in my
Yeah.
head they're already like, oh my gosh, this perfect person.
Right. I think another like biblical principle that you also have to consider and think about when you have any feelings for a person, whether they're a sparkle or full
Mhm.
blown crush, is that you need to guard your heart. I think
Yeah.
the enemy definitely sees your wants for marriage or a relationship, and he can definitely use that against you. And I'm not saying like don't even have a crush because that's not healthy either. Like don't you don't have to suppress like
Yeah.
your feelings, but definitely
You're
guard your
not being
heart.
sinful if you're like thinking someone's cute and like them.
Yeah,
Like that's not
it's crazy
that's
because
not wrong.
I feel like I don't know why, I feel like growing up it kind of felt
I felt like that for me too.
like it was a sin to like someone because you're told like lust starts in the heart, like it's not all about action and blah blah blah, which true.
I think
But
for
like
me it was I like got easily embarrassed. I just would
oh yeah.
always be embarrassed to even I still like have to work on it. I would get so embarrassed if like anyone thinks that I'm being flirty. Or if
Mm,
someone like honestly, this is just because I think friends will tease you, but sometimes if I'm talking to a new guy, like my friend later will be like, "Who is that?" You know, like we do that to each
oh that
other.
yeah.
But I absolutely like hate those conversations because it just like bothers me. Like, and I, again, this is probably something I have to unpack, not gonna lie. It's probably rooted from some sort of like insecurity from, I don't know, elementary or middle school that I have to unpack. But I am aware of it. I'm aware of the fact that like it's hard for me to express interest in a guy just from like seeking them out more because I'm terrified of people seeing that because I think it's
Mm.
embarrassing. But also, like, there's no need to be embarrassed by that because that's just like what you do when you're interested in someone. You talk to them a little bit more, seek them out a little bit. And literally, the worst case scenario is that they don't feel the same way. And then you just move on and you stay friends or
Right.
acquaintances or whatever.
I think if you crush well, it's a very weird concept to think about. But if you crush well, there's no reason that you shouldn't be left with a friendship at the end of things. And I think
Yeah.
that just goes along with guarding your heart, taking your thoughts captive, and going about things in a pure way. That if you are genuinely seeking out a real like friendship with the person, if that happens, and the other person is reciprocating a friendship, whether they want it romantic or
Yeah.
not, you should be left with friendships at the end of it. And then it should be also helpful for you to move on after
Hmm.
if they're like, hey, I don't see us that's this way, or maybe you get over the crush because you're like, actually, there are things that don't align with what God says in his word. And this comes into like what you should be seeking in like a person, like in your future spouse, which might be a whole other episode, honestly.
Hmm.
But if like the person aligns with everything and you're like, check, 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 and then you're like, actually, that is a huge deal breaker. You shouldn't like leave that crush hating the person. You should
Hmm.
be like, no, I genuinely think you're a great person. I don't think we would work, but we can be friends.
Yeah.
And so you have to though guard your heart in that and make sure
Yeah.
you don't allow your thoughts to go wild to the
Yeah.
point that you ruined a whole relationship before you even started.
Yeah, exactly. I think that something what you were just saying brought to mind is when I did a devotional from the Bible Project. Wait, that's what they're called, right? Those videos, the Bible Project.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're these two guys, I forgot their names, but they explain the Bible and different books of the Bible and stuff through these really fun videos on YouTube. So you should go check them out.
They're awesome,
Yeah.
honestly.
But one series they did was on a Bible verse in Deuteronomy called the Shema, and they broke down several like specific words, and one of them was heart. The Bible verse is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And when they talked about the word heart in Hebrew, what I thought was interesting is that in Hebrew they used heart to also understand essentially like where all the brain's intellectual activity was as well. So it wasn't just a place of your emotions, it was a place where you knew stuff, where you
Mm,
understood stuff. In Proverbs, it talks about like wisdom being in the heart. So that's why in that verse you brought up where it says to guard your heart, for all
mhm,
you do flows from it. It's not just this idea of guarding your emotions, it's about guarding your whole mind
mhm,
and everything that you dwell on. And so, how do you guard your heart? Well, you have to also guard your thoughts, right?
mhm.
And that's what this episode really is about. So, it could be about a romantic interest or just about anything else in your life, but helping or trying to guard your thoughts is what is most important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, one way that I do that is by starting to recognize that I don't know who my future husband is, so I'm not going to put that label on someone um prematurely. And
Right.
even when you're dating someone, like there are boyfriend privileges and husband privileges. And my friend and I were just talking about this earlier today. And there's a difference. Like the guarding of your heart continues through dating too,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
until you are like signed, sealed, delivered, we said I do at the altar,
Mm-hmm.
like the covenant has been made.
Even when you're engaged, like
Yeah.
that is not just because you put a ring on your finger does not mean you're married.
Yeah.
You haven't made that
Yeah.
covenant
And it's
yet.
not because you doubt.
No.
It's not because you doubt that they're going to be like the person you marry, but it's because there is so much beauty in respecting a person enough to wait, to do things under God's like timing and
Mm-hmm.
under God's instruction. And if God instructed us in his word to wait until marriage for all these different types of intimacy, not just physical, then why am I going to go against God? Because I want to trust that he knows what's
Yeah.
best. And I just think that there's like certain types of intimacy that are reserved for your husband.
And
Yeah.
God doesn't like say these things because he doesn't want you to have fun or he doesn't want you
Yeah.
to experience something. It's truly to protect you from things that you can get yourself in a lot of trouble or a lot of hurt and a lot of
Mhm.
pain by allowing some of these things to run wild and just like give them control over you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just to encourage you guys, like if you feel like you've gone too far mentally, and or maybe you like do struggle like I have with like crushing so hard on someone that it's just because you want to like control the little movie in your head, the Hallmark movie, and
Mm-hmm.
then it causes you not to be yourself around them, and then you feel stupid or you feel like embarrassed because you can't even become their friend or all of those things that I have struggled with before, then I want to just encourage you like that is not past God's ability to redeem and to use. He's grown me so much through some of those really embarrassing experiences
Mm-hmm.
where it was just embarrassing to me myself. It's not like other people like saw
Right.
that. It's not like only my closest friends knew how like hard I was crushing on a guy, because I would tell them, but it's not embarrassing because yes, you might feel the embarrassment. Like for me, anytime I crushed so hard on a guy, but then nothing ever happened, I would literally be like, why did I ever even tell any of my friends I liked him? Because now it feels like
A waste of
embarrassing.
time. I
Or
was
like
so
I was
dumb
rejected without
or
being rejected. Cause
yeah.
like sometimes it just was like, oh, the guy I had a crush on ended up a few months later, like starting to date another girl. So then I feel rejected when it wasn't even like they knew I liked them. Like,
Yeah.
but those are all emotions the enemy tries to use to get you to think that you shouldn't be vulnerable, that you shouldn't ever like actually express interest in a guy, that you should keep all your
Mm-hmm.
feelings, all your emotions, all your thoughts to yourself in your control in your mind all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly where he will trap you to lead you into even more dangerous sin. And this is why I do want to talk about it to encourage you girls and guys, whoever's listening, to get out of your head and just go to the Lord and like tell him all you're feeling, tell him all you're struggling with, and then go to your trusted community and
Yes.
invite them into it because we were not made to live in our heads. And that's like
And I think like
so
the beautiful
common.
yeah, and the beautiful thing about God is that he cares about the little things. Like if
Hmm.
you think he only cares about the big things in your life, like who am I going to marry?
Yeah.
Where am I going to work? What is my purpose in life? If he cares about the birds and what they eat and where
Yeah.
and the worm in the ground, he definitely cares about your crushes and your
Yeah.
feelings and your thoughts and you thinking like, "Oh, God doesn't have time or doesn't care about this. Like why would I bring it to him?" is a sign of you lack a little bit of faith that God can't handle that, even
Yeah.
something so small as that. And one of my, I say favorite because God works really well when I pray this prayer, but I really don't like it because he works really well when I pray this prayer, is when I'm finally ready to like humble myself and get out of my own head and my daydream and just be like, you know what, Lord, I fully trust you in my love story and I fully give this to you. If this crush or maybe you're dating someone or whatever, if this is not for me and not from you, please close the door on it. And let me tell you, I've never seen God work so fast to answer a prayer. That is like, I think his favorite prayer to answer is to shut doors that are going to negatively affect you. And I've seen it work time and time again. But normally it's like with a little bit of a battle because I'm like, I really want this crush to work out. But when at any time I start like a crush off with just praying like, God, like if this is from you, let it blossom into something beautiful that will
Mm-hmm.
glorify you. If it's not, please like reveal to me why I should stop liking this person. And it doesn't have to be anything like terribly negative.
Yeah.
There might be as simple as like, hey, that
They're
guy,
moving
he
or
they're moving.
something. I'm just thinking
No, actually
practically.
for real. Or
Yeah.
he's like his family dynamic, it could be even a good dynamic, but that just would really clash with my family and we would just not work. Personality wise, we would just not be compatible in XYZ. And like those things get revealed to me. I'm like, thank you, Lord, for saving me the heartache or even the time that I would have spent like obsessing over this person, which is so bad. And like, I don't want to ever do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I do think too, as you start to work on that mentally, you can then date better. Because some
I
of the
agree.
stuff you mentioned, like, might come about only as you start dating a person. And I don't ever want people to think, like, oh, dating isn't worth it. Because what if it doesn't work out? Then I'm heartbroken. Like, if you go into dating with a healthier mindset of, like, well, this person isn't, I don't know if they're going to be my future spouse in the
Right.
first place. That's why you date.
Yeah.
So then you could, like, date more
Say
easily.
that again, Sammy. Say that again.
You date to figure out if you should probably even be in a committed relationship. And then when you're in the committed relationship with labels on it, like boyfriend, girlfriend, you keep dating and doing life together to figure out if you should be married. But I
Mhm.
think that because we get so in our head and we want to like figure out if they're the one,
You're not gonna
the
know
one with
that
like
he's the
finger
or
quotes
she's the one like from the second
from a crush.
from
Like,
a no, it does not work like that.
yeah. So
And
I feel like it works in your favor to start to like get out of your head early on because then you set yourself up better to date well
mhm,
and you set yourself up better to actually just become friends with like the people around you before you just jump into this
100%.
mental like illusion of, oh, this is like my person, I'm just gonna like daydream about
Yeah.
them, you know?
And I love that like building friendships I think is so key because at the end of the day, you want your husband to be your friend.
Yeah, your best
If you
friend.
can't even be like best friends with him, I don't understand how you think you're going to survive like a marriage with that
Yeah,
person.
because it's mainly
So
friendship
building a good
on
solid
fire.
foundation of friendship first, I think will be always it is always the best way first. And if like love comes out of that in the sense of like more romantic where you would want to
Yeah.
marry them, that's beautiful. But if not, you are left with good friends and a good community. And I just love that. Like it's so nice to kind of take the pressure off of a crush. Like you don't have to be like, oh my goodness, if I like even crush wrong and like um if you're not letting it like take up that kind of high capacity space in your mind, it shouldn't, affect you negatively, hopefully. I know
Yeah.
like things happen, but it's with practice and like God has taught me so much through my crushes about myself and where I need to grow as a person and
Yeah.
he's really used them to mold me and shape me into the woman of God that he has made me to be so that when I do get married that marriage will be blessed because I've already went through all of that before I got to the marriage part and I've already grown into a person without bringing that baggage into the marriage.
Mm.
I was reading a book about prayer today and the author was kind of talking about how you can like pray and pray and pray about something, but then you never actually make the move towards that prayer. And and you get upset when God doesn't answer it, but God's like, I'm waiting for you to make the
To
move
have
towards it.
faith.
Do you
Yeah.
have enough faith to actually take a step? And there's like stories in the Old Testament where God asks people to like step into the river and I'll split the water.
Hmm.
But if they didn't step into it, he wouldn't have split it, right? Like, so you just have to make the bold like steps forward. And sometimes, those prayers maybe don't get answered the way that you want them
Yeah.
to, but you can't just sit there and be like, I mean, this is, crush is kind of like just a small portion of like your life. But if you have a crush on someone, make the moves towards getting to know them more. And then that has the chance to blossom into something or just stay as a friendship. But if you're
Yeah.
always in your head, you can't be mad if nothing ever
Yeah.
happens.
I will say to kind of start leaning towards wrapping this up, something that I read from Dr. Henry Cloud in that book
Yes,
we talked
Dr.
about.
Henry Cloud.
Anyways, he said this in a book and I was like, wait, this is so good and also gives like a whole new level of like purpose to getting to know someone. He
Yeah.
was talking about how the more that you put yourself out there to get to know people in general, right? Making friends, but then also in this setting, getting to know people you might be interested in romantically, the
Hmm.
more you get to know yourself. And that is so much more valuable. So if I walk away from getting to know a guy, maybe it's just conversations and friendships and group settings, maybe it's a couple dates, you know?
Hmm.
If those things don't lead to a relationship and I walk away having gained something still because I got to challenge myself.
Hmm.
I got to trust God with something scary.
Yeah.
I got to become more confident in who I am. Like all of those things will make it worth it. And hopefully you're also leaving them better than you found them because you got to treat them with the same honor and love and respect that God would want you to treat them with. And that's
Exactly.
the whole goal. So again, the goal, like yes, maybe marriage is a goal and a desire of yours, but when it comes to our life as a whole, the goal is not marriage. Like you are
No.
not holier if you get married.
No.
Like
If
the
anything, Paul
goal,
says it'd be better if you stayed single if you
yeah,
can.
literally, the goal is to honor God and worship him and enjoy him,
Yes.
to love God, to love others, to make disciples of all nations.
Hmm.
You could list off all these like scriptures that I would say kind of like summarize our calling and our goal in life,
Right.
to live abundantly because Jesus gives us abundant life. You can do that single or married. You could do that
100%.
at any age. You could do that in any place in the world, whether you have much or you have little. And so, if that's the goal, then suddenly the things that seem scary, yes, they might still be scary, but they kind of dim a little bit
And I think
because God becomes
yeah.
bigger.
And you go into it with a better perspective
Yeah.
also, that you're no longer having these selfish desires and selfish, prideful, like, I deserve this or this has to happen like this
Yeah.
because I want it to. If you come from it from a like a holy like perspective, and you can really allow God to take control and he can work miracles. And it's really beautiful to see God work in our relationships, whether it's a small crush or a friendship
Yeah.
or a marriage or whatever.
Because at the end of the day, I just want to fall more in love with Jesus. And I can't tell you how much I fall in love with Jesus because of the way that he's shown me that I took things like
Yeah.
too seriously in my head, right? Because of the way that he had to teach me, like, Sammy, you could talk to me about your crushes. Like, I'm your best friend. Like, I want to be there about
And that's
for
so
that.
beautiful
Like,
that
as God
you can
has
do
taught
that.
me that,
Mhm.
like, it makes me fall in love with him even more. And that's like the whole, like, that's the end goal, is to be so in love with Jesus that nothing else matters, that he is like the most important thing in your life.
I agree. I love that.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
So
Well, we
go
could
fall in love with Jesus, guys.
first and foremost, Jesus should always be your number one
Number
love.
one.
Always.
Yes.
Well, we could talk about crushes forever. You know, if you want to hear who
And Jesus even longer.
and we will be. If you want to hear Sammy's crush and who it is, follow us on Patreon. Just joking. There is no Patreon.
You mean my heart sparkles? I don't have a crush.
Exactly. Ooh,
Mm.
never mind. We're not going to talk about if we have heart sparkles right now or not. Maybe it crinkles. I don't know. Well, that's pretty much the end of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us ramble on about heart sparkles, crinkles, and crushes.
Yeah, hopefully we do pray that this kind of offers some good wisdom or insight, because at the end of the day, the whole goal of this podcast is to take like ordinary things that we experience and go through and see how the Lord can bring us into a deeper love for him and a deeper connection and relationship with him through it. And he can do that through a crush. So hopefully that's what you got
He's
from
definitely
this.
done that to me.
Yep, exactly. But we're just so thankful for you guys in general and that you're following along with us on this journey. So thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you in our next episode. Bye.
Bye.